I am going live on all of my platforms here, and I'm hoping this is working. Now, this is new for me for Instagram, so I might have to, let's see, I'm coming on. Awesome. So here we are. I am Melinda Kunst. I am the face of hope when there was none. Whew, I gotta tell you, I had some anxiety about coming on today. Now, my camera, just so you're aware, and I keep forgetting this, is down below. So you might see me if I have to type with monster fingers, but I might look away. Just as habit, I look towards the top. But anyway, and I'm also going to check if there's any questions or any messages on my phone, but I'm also doing my podcast right now. I'm trying to get everybody tied in, and we'll see how this goes. So, 15 years. It's been a rough ride. I've had a few people ask me some questions, but one that just stood out for sure, and I will get to that later. It's from Anna. Now, please, there's a trigger warning here. I don't, I'm going to read a couple things. One is a letter that I actually wrote to the court. It was immediately, pretty actually in the year of 2009 when I left my ex. So I believe I've read it one other time on here, but it's been a couple years. On my journey, it's been 15 years. So yes, I'm excited. I am so happy and to be free, to be in my happily ever after, not knowing what a healthy relationship look is supposed to look like was very hard. I grew up in a situation with a loving mom. She worked her ass off. She did. And, kudos to my mom. By the age of 2, she met somebody, fell in love and met somebody. Well, he was not so nice. And unfortunately, or fortunately, she has the strength of Hercules, and just with her how she is emotionally and mentally, she was able to confront her abuser, which was my stepdad. And with that, she had that power within her when she finally said, enough's enough, and you're not going to do this to me anymore. And he was a womanizer, also into drinking and drugs. I would go with him on buys, or I don't know what else he was doing during those times, but I was young. I can remember those. Now, when my mom did finally take back her power, and that is just a wonderful thing for any person to do, whether you're male or female, it is liberating. But sometimes what happens is those abusers need to then direct it to somebody else. And usually, unfortunately, that might be if you have children, it might be your child, or it might be the pet. So it's usually directed to somebody else. And more than likely, if they're a bully at home, they might be a bully at work too. Or you might have the latter where they are sweet as pie. It's called covert abuse, and no one can believe that this person is abusive. Now, so I went on these buys, these drug buys or whatever he was doing. I was not allowed to go in. I had to stay in the car, in the van. So I would bring my dolls with and I would play in the back. Now, I don't know how long these actually were, I'll be honest with you, but in kid years, it felt like hours. But I know there were times where I was hungry. I know there was times I had to go to the bathroom and I would have to sit and wait for him. I was not allowed to get out of the car. I actually had to stay down in the car, in the van, so no one could see me. And we did this until I think I was 6 or 7. I went to school. I went to first grade. No, I did not go to kindergarten or preschool. It was back in the 70s. So yes, I'm dating myself, but I would have to wait. And I did. I think there was a few times where I snuck up front, like the steering wheel, to look out and see what was going on, but I was not supposed to, and I would get yelled at for that. But abuse did happen when I was younger, and I'm still working on this. So I don't know much more, but things are kind of bubbling up for me from my past because much of my past is blank. So I will have people come up to me that are like from grade school or high school and they'll say, "Hey, we used to walk to school together." I do not remember that, but I know our brain does a wonderful thing with protecting us. And so sometimes we might have these gaps in our memories where we don't remember anything. Now, I'm not talking about because I'm a Lyme, being Lyme challenged, and also I just had some more recent different diagnosis too. So I am challenged by the forgetfulness. And I had a hard time wondering with PTSD, is this from PTSD? So a lot of these things kind of tie in together regardless. So that was some of my childhood. It's just remembering being fearful of leaving that van, fearful, okay, what if something happens to him? Because sometimes there was yelling and screaming, coming from out of the house or shouting or, people that were partiers. So I'm assuming it was a drug house back then. Again, I don't know. I was young. This is in the 70s. Um, she finally had enough where she left him when I was 13. And this was just a big hooray. And I was so conflicted because I was just so conflicted. I was a teenager. I was just doing the teenage thing where I was not rebellious, but I just was sassy, a little more sassy. Now I would never call my mom the B word or F off or anything like kids nowadays do. I would not even dream of doing that because I know she would knock me into place. Not that she ever did. I think she spanked me once, but really and truly, she's a remarkable woman. And do these things happen generationally? I'm not sure. When asked about my grandpa and grandma's relationship, those it was just, they kind of just fell out of love kind of thing. So generationally there, I don't believe there was any abuse, but I know going forward in the family there was with other relatives. So when we go back and how the Body Keeps Score, or there was a couple other great books that I've read, and I'll post them in the Hope When There Was None page, and so you can maybe check those out. So I don't know. I don't know. They say that all this is in our DNA and so on. I wanted to be a cycle breaker, and like my mom was. But I don't think we had as much information that we do now than we did then because it was kind of taboo. We don't, and even still now, we still hide that there is mental health issues. We hide that we are having family issues, whether it's a divorce or someone's molesting one of our family members. We still hide this. We can't tell anybody our dirty business. And so sometimes we just do that as another cycle. We keep those secrets. And I did get when I first started to tell my story, and this again, February 25th is when I left my ex. I still remember getting messages from mainly women at that time, thanking me for hey sharing your story. And at that time, when I started to do this, it was actually in March when I started to come forward about what was going on. It was mainly, honestly, kind of like to tell everybody what a piece of crap my ex was and just the things that he was doing. And they seemed so unbelievable at the time. And even just starting to share with what's going on with court and so on. It just seemed kind of unbelievable to some people. So I started a blog soon after on MySpace. So yes, I am dating myself. And with that, it just spun into a blog post on uh, I can't remember the name of it. Blackspot. Anyway, I still have a blog. It's really dusty, but I do have a Hope When There Was None blog out there. But people were coming forward, and everybody has been more than generous and wonderful with on my journey. No one has ever shamed me, at least not to my face. No one has ever come out. I think the only comment that I had gotten was once. It was for somebody I went to church with. And let's not start that, okay? Um, she had said, "Why are you digging up all those old bones?" And another person says, "You know what? That's in your past. It's in your rearview mirror. Don't look." And I just couldn't get that. And for me, it was also more of a calling on my heart to do that I needed to share. And I know somebody's like, "I'm gonna turn the page here. I'm not gonna look at this post anymore," and that's fine. But I kept getting people in my way that would pop into my way. I don't mean that literally, that I didn't know, strangers, and they would come up to me and like, "Hello," I'd say, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" And they would suddenly tell me their life story. And I'm sure there's more like me out there. And pretty soon you know that they're a survivor. And like, okay, that's an ordained moment. And it's almost like it kept happening and kept happening, but yet I kept running from it. I didn't want to share my story. I didn't want to keep doing, what I was doing. But, just to be annoyed, I would do it privately. I would just share with my friends. And then pretty soon it just spun into what you see today with this podcast, with the speaking engagements, and so on and so on. In doing so, I've been able to heal, which I'm going to get to Anna's comment right here. She said, how did you find yourself afterwards, if you did? It was a lot of hard work. During February, I do a 20, whatever the days, was it 27, 28 this year, for self-love. What I am teaching and what I'm sharing are things that I did. So you're walking along with me on my path as I've done it. Now, is it in any particular order? No. And there is more. I like on my Soulful Sundays that I share little tidbits and so on. What I'm sharing are things that I've done. It's not that I'm just pulling things out of a hat. I'm actually sharing with you things that I'm doing, that things that I did, and I'm still working on myself. Again, I mentioned that I had some anxiety about today. Well, it's more so today because I've had some different things come up with memories. I'm just going to leave it at that. So with those memories that have recently bubbled up came not nightmares, but I did have a little panicky feeling this morning. So, Miss Anna, it's been a long, long, really long journey to get to where I am now. There were a lot of tears. There was a lot of crying. There was a lot of screaming. I encourage whoever's watching this, if you need to go scream somewhere, go scream. Now, I'm not saying in the middle of the store at Walmart, just drop everything and just, ah. What I'm saying is if you need to go find somewhere that's quiet, maybe go walk in the woods or at a park where there are no kids. You don't want to scare anybody, but somewhere where you feel safe. Maybe it's at a friend's house. Maybe you tell everybody to leave the house. You just need me time, and you scream, you cry, you yell, you beat some pillows, whatever that looks like. Go to a rage room, whatever that looks like to you. What's also good is to get some rocks, and no, you're not going to bash them over that abuser or that toxic person's head. No, seriously, you get some rocks and you go to a lake or an ocean and you throw them into as hard as you can. You just throw them. You throw them into that lake or that ocean, as many as you need to, and you keep going and you keep going until you can't anymore. You can also think of that person as you're doing it. Think of, maybe call it something. This is grief, and throw it. This is hatred, throw it. This is for all the times you made me feel like crap, throw it. This is for every time you called me fat, throw it, and so on and so on. And just throw that, throw it into there, because that's very helpful. That was very helpful for me. And also letter writing. And I haven't shared this on the self-love thing, but I did. It was actually one of my most popular posts about writing a letter to your abuser. You can write a letter to yourself. You can write a letter to your past self, as a child, for that inner child healing. You can write a letter to your future self, and so on and so on. So letter writing is very, very healing in itself. Now, whether you give that to somebody, that's entirely up to you. You can go ahead and do that, or you can just hold on to that. And maybe at a later date, you can save those for your children or a family member. Perhaps you can even save it for that person that hurt you. Now, many times, if you have somebody that's like my abuser, I don't want to call him mine, my ex, it's going to fall on deaf ears. And I have a recent text, but I'm not going to share that. But I am going to print those off, and I think I'm going to burn them today, just for myself, for closure. I may never get closure for him because he doesn't think he did wrong. Now, you will have some people that are abusive, and they either grew up in that cycle. They were fine as a kid. Maybe they had some medical issues that, let's say medication. Now all of a sudden they're crazy. There are different reasons. A drinker, maybe he or she only abuses when they're drinking. So there's so many different reasons a person can abuse. Or again, they're just a douchebag and they like their control. So there are different reasons why a person does that. Perhaps they're not getting that feeling of control at work. I don't know. And I don't know what's in their mind. But for me, printing those off, and I think I'm going to burn them and just say a prayer over them and then send him love. And why? Right? You're like, why? Why? I have to, because all that darkness, all those dark feelings that I have or had towards him, all the negativity, and also replaying those stories, what happened to me, what he did. And again, I'm going to read this to you, and I did use some language that he used for me. So I'm just warning you ahead of time. So if you have littles listening, please don't let them go away, and I'll just do that next. But I have to send love to people that have hurt me or that have wronged me. And that's including him too, because that's eating me up if I don't. That's making me stay in the darkness. And I don't want to do that. I want to be light. I want to sit in the light. And I also, many times, especially if I've been wronged, it's not my fault. I can say, and I even said my sorry to my ex and some other people. And thinking back, it's like I did nothing wrong. I'm apologizing. I'm taking on that energy. I'm taking on their crap, and it's not for me. That's not mine. So I'm writing letters. I'm sending love. Even if you have to deal with that person, what I used to do, I used to think of myself in a protective bubble. And my friend Christy sent that to me. I would sit in a bubble and it would be white for protection. I would also pray. Okay. I was in my Bible as much as I could. You know what, even though I had issues with the church when I went to them to explain what was going on and that I needed help, that I was worried he was going to kill me. And when I went to my pastor, and I told him I was thinking about getting a divorce. He looked at me and he's like, you know what the Bible says about a divorce? So, and he offered to pray for me. So despite that, I knew in my heart that God did not want this for me. He did not want me to be trapped in a relationship where there's no love. When he started our union, the union was for a man and a wife to be, helpmeets for each other, to love each other. It wasn't just to go, let's pass each other around. That's not what it was for. It was created for love. That's what he had created this for. And so in my heart, I truly believe that what I was experiencing and what I was going through was not love. And I knew that it was out there for me somewhere. I just didn't know where it was. And after some time, even though I fantasized about what my life would be like, and I encourage you to do so, fantasize about what would your life look like without abuse. And I started to do that. I started to really think in, okay, where would I live? What would I do? When I'm ready for love, who would I be with? And I created a list of over 100 things. I know it sounds crazy, of what I wanted in that person. Now, I'm not somebody that's witchy. I didn't go ahead and write, like, do rituals or something over that. I just wanted to write out a list because it helps me. I'm good for writing lists to see, okay, this is what I want. And I didn't want the same thing that I just had. I don't want that. So when the time was ready, that's when that would come along for me. Now, whether that was for a couple weeks, whether that was for a year later, whether that was for 5 or 6 years, who knows? Or maybe it would never happen. But that's something that I really envisioned. But I knew I needed to fix me. And after leaving, I knew that I was terrified of being alone. I was lonely. I was lonely in the relationship, but I was also lonely thinking about what am I going to do? Who's going to love me? Who's going to, take care of me? I was used to having someone that held the insurance. He took care of the house, the payments and so on. He had a job. I didn't have anything in my name. We did have the house together, but it was his house. Regardless what the checkbook said, what the house said, it was his. So everything that we had together, it didn't feel like mine. And it was never, most of the things that we did get was on my credit. And we ended up filing bankruptcy twice while we were married. And the last time was in 2009. But most of the stuff is because I'm sorry, I did not turn off my thing. Hey, Miss Charmaine, if you're watching, my love, I am live. Let me turn this off. She's just sending me good luck while I'm doing this. Miss Charmaine Moore of the Face of Hope and Beauty. You can find her on Instagram. But anyway, I needed to envision that life in order to keep me going, to keep that momentum going, because I didn't want to be afraid of of chickening out. And I did go to a women's retreat. I was hoping it was a Christian one. I was hoping to find out answers there. If I was doing right by God, I know, that pastor's message was still running through my head that maybe I was doing the wrong thing. But talking with this lady who was like an angel, she was like a godsend, because she had told me after I explained what was going on and what I was experiencing. She's a mental health nurse for 20 plus years. She's like, honey, that's not right. He's abusing you. And that's not the first time I heard that. I actually left my ex the first time in 2007. In 2007, when I first left him, he went ahead and attempted suicide. And that was an order to get me back. I actually left him twice in 2007. I took him back both times because his mom, God love her, she encouraged me to go back. She felt horrible for him. But I did learn during one of those times that he had this obsession with me, and that still continues to today, that he hopes that we will still get together. And yes, this is 15 years later. Apparently, he still has some of my things in all hopes that I come back. And he's envisioning this. So I am just recently, over the past month or so, or a few weeks, it's been a whirlwind. I am making sure I'm a little more hyper vigilant about putting my head on swivel, about watching our surroundings. I've canceled all my evening things. And it kind of sucks because I feel like then I'm giving him power again, power over me. So I hate feeling that way because I have come so far. I really have. And so in a way that really made me really mad. It really did. Tick me off. But anyway, I met him in high school. So when we met, I never considered the relationship anything more than just friends. He wanted more, of course. And every time I attempted to break up with him, he would say he's going to commit suicide. And then later on, it started to spin out into, I'm going to kill your family. I'll make it look like an accident. There'll be a fire. It'll be a gas incident, or something will happen to them. And it'll just look like an accident. And he said it so much, and it just went into my spirit and my soul that he would really harm my family. He was a bully in school. It wasn't uncommon for him to be mouthy or pick fights with somebody. He hung somebody upside down outside of a window during construction class. And he was just threatening. He was a bully. And I could not seem to find a way to get out of this safely. I tried to encourage him to date other girls, our age at that time. And it just did not happen. I could not get him away from me. And it comes to a point when you start believing everything that person tells you. You even start to believe that that is love. It wasn't. Even I knew in my heart. We had fights, if not every day, every other day, and it'd be over stupid stuff. Just the dumbest thing. And he would be so jealous. Oh, that guy's looking at you. Did you F him? Why were you late? When I got a job, well, why didn't you want me to pick you up? Are you seeing somebody else? There was always an accusation that I was fooling around, and I wasn't at the time. Later on, I did. Okay, I'm coming out there, and because I wanted to be free, and I would always tell him, and even until right before I left, I don't love you. Please just let me go. And I meant it. And after a while, I'm not a mean person, but that meanness started to come out because I was being honest. I didn't want to be with him anymore. And did I tell my family? I didn't tell my family. My stepdad actually knew the family before, so he knew what a jerk he was. And I could not tell anybody because he had told me if I tell anybody what was going on, he would kill them. And I know it's like now thinking about it, I wish I would have told somebody. But at the same time, my new pastor's wife had asked Janet, she had asked me, Mel, if you could go back in time and change that, would you? And I would not. I mean, I know that maybe the universe is set up, predestination or whatever, if you want to call it that. Maybe things would have worked out, but I don't know. I wouldn't have Mr. Awesome right now, aka Terry. We wouldn't have Mr. K, our son. Maybe. I don't know. All I know is I can't go back. I can't change that future. Excuse me, that past. I can't. So I can only look forward. And that was on my healing journey. I knew I had to keep looking forward because looking in the back, looking in that rear view mirror, yeah, that was hard. But it would come up in nightmares. It would come up as me wetting the bed. Yes, I still wet the bed at 40. And a lot of that had to do with the trauma. A lot of that had to do with, just the things that I went through and the hypervigilance, feeling jumpy all the time. Anytime I saw a car that looked like his, I had to get rid of the phone that I had. I had the Nextel, the chirp phones, because that's what my ex would message me on. And anytime that he would do the walkie-talkie, I would just about jump out of my skin. So, I mean, thankfully, my sister at the time when I just left took my phone away, and that was so helpful for me to get out of that a little bit. But you get into this situation where you almost have to detox out of that relationship. And I'm skipping a lot. I'm sorry. You have to detox out of that relationship because you're so used to living up here in this chemical state in your brain where there's cortisol and dopamine is all going crazy and firing because you're in this situation. It's like watching a scary movie all the time. You're up here, and coming down from that, it was really hard. You go through a withdrawal, and I like to equate it to like having a sugar withdrawal. If you've ever dieted or given up sugar, you know that craving or carbs, you know what it's like to give up that. And so that's where you almost start looking for drama. And yes, former drama mama, I try not to get into drama. But I try to make sure I'm not stuffed in someone else's drama. That's why I like to try and get things open and done, and out. And just maybe that's why I don't live by anybody because I just don't want drama. But I encourage you, if you notice you're wrapped into this situation where it's like, okay, I left my ex, but now I seem to be in this constant mode of drama. You might be hooked on the drama. You might be up there in that cortisol and that dopamine because you left your ex, but unconsciously you are still looking for that next high. And so you might get sucked into family drama or friend drama. And it just happens. And it's hard. It's really hard to break that. So thankfully my sister took that away, but I could I felt really weird without my phone. Like I just did a digital detox for everybody on the self-love challenge. Now, can you go 5 minutes without your phone? That's what I'm talking about. So doing that detox to going no contact with this person unless he had a specific reason, like one of the kids, their arm fell off, okay? Or maybe something happened to his mom and he wanted to let me know. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about where he's messaging me 40, 50 times in an hour or more to why aren't you messaging me back? Blah, 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 and all this little nitpicking stuff. It was just like, I'm still there. I'm like being sucked right back into that relationship. So going no contact, using, like, I think they have Family Wizard now. They didn't have that back then. That, please use that. Document. If you're leaving your abuser or if you're getting ready to leave your abuser. And I did not call the police. Okay. There's no shame in that. We have a lot of law enforcement out there that aren't very supportive of of victims, okay, of survivors. They're not very supportive, but you do have some that are. I know of a couple that are local that are trying to do their best with the survivors and trying to help them. So they are out there, but I know we need to work on that. That's another podcast. That's for me down the road. But today, let's focus on just getting you safe. And so whatever resources you need, message me privately. Let me get back to this before I forget. And now this is a pretty big one. Again, this is where it's going to be hot. This is right after I left him. And again, why I didn't leave him, again, and even why I married him is if I didn't go down and take care of that marriage with him, I didn't go down the aisle and take care of him, there was still that threat. I am going to kill your parents. I'm going to kill your sister. That's why I went down that aisle. That's why I went through with it, because I believed him. And I know somebody's like shaking their head. Well, he probably wouldn't have done it. When I read you some of the other stuff, I have no doubt in my mind that he is capable of doing some things. And what I experienced throughout our marriage, I have no doubt that he would have done something. So let me read this. And okay. All right. So here we go. So hello, I'm Melinda. I'm a mom of four great kids. Again, this was in 2009. I'm 40 years old and married to my husband for over 21 years. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I met William when I was a high school sophomore. At 16, the world was my oyster, and I, of course, knew it all. At a young age, I was blind and scared of the attention that William was giving me. We dated off and on, and each time I would break up with him, he would be there waiting, either waiting outside my bedroom window, following me everywhere, and eventually threatening to kill my sisters and parents if I didn't make up with him. I was frightened of him and believed he would follow through with his threats. We were married, and I even went back and forth with this. I cried on the day we were married. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and I was filled with dread. The family and friends urged, those who knew did urge me to stop. They really did. But I couldn't because, again, he threatened he was threatening to harm my family. The day was horrible and I wanted to throw up. I had fear of him harming everyone dear to me, and I did still follow through. Afterwards, he belittled me. I cried silently in the bathroom. My friends and family celebrated. Now, I wasn't allowed to dance with anybody. I wasn't allowed to party with anybody because he would accuse me. We danced, I think, our first dance together, and he had given me ground rules. Nobody under, I think he said 50 or 60, I was allowed to dance with, and I had to stay at his side the whole time. Literally, I was, even though you see a smile on my face for my friends and family, and if you never knew this, um, I was dying inside. I felt horrible. I wanted to run away that moment. Why didn't I? But I didn't want him to harm my family. So, um, years later, it didn't get any better. He grew more and more abusive as time went on, hitting, punching, raping me, choking me, pulling my hair, holding knives to my throat, and calling me many vile things. After time, I grew to believe everything that he told me. I was worthless, stupid, fat, a cunt, dumb spick, only to be used and good on my knees. He told me no one would ever want me. I had my place time after time, naked on the floor at bedtime. If I disobeyed him by saying no to sex, or if he felt like I just needed to be punished. I was pushed out of the car more times than I can count, locked outdoors with nothing but my pajamas in the winter. Oh, and there are many things that man put me and later the kids through. We had kids and they were a blessing. I felt I cursed them to a life of sadness and cruelty. I hope when we had children that he would change, and he didn't. And that's true. I thought when we would get married, okay, maybe he'll settle down. Maybe this will change him. And then later on with the kids, I thought the same thing. And even after we were married, we had cats. The cats didn't like him. Animals are very smart. Small children and animals are very smart. But I really and truly started to look for apartments, and I couldn't afford it. I just couldn't afford it. I was working as a receptionist downtown in Chicago at the time at an ad agency, but with the money I was getting, I mean, even back then, some of the apartments were like $1,000. $800 to $1,000, and I could not afford it. I was making peanuts back then. And many of them also wouldn't take animals. And I loved my cats, which I later got rid of because he has asthma, but I should have got rid of him and not the cats. I should have kept the cats. But anyway, I ended up finding out I'm allergic to cats anyway. But let's go on. So as I mentioned, he didn't change. Money was also a big thing. Again, I mentioned that we did file bankruptcy. He always seemed to want to. I had everything that you could ever think of, really and truly. I had every gadget and gizmo and so on. But it always seemed that he had to keep up with everybody else, with our neighbors, with friends and family, or to make us look good. So I had like jewelry, and I had fancy gizmos, and even our car was new. But it wasn't me. That's not who I am. And I didn't get a say. I felt I always had a lot of sore throats too. And I think that's because even as a child, I was never able to scream or to cry or to voice my opinion and say what I don't like. No. So we fought over money tirelessly. Sex was another problem. He was a sex addict. He cheated on me several times. We ended up swinging. I won't go into details because it made me feel so dirty. I would excuse myself to leave the room so he could do his thing. I would hide in the kitchen or make up some excuse, not to perform. Not to perform. After the encounters, I would have to have sex with him. He would force me to give him oral sex. even though he did not wipe himself clean after he had some woman or man. I was horrified and disgusted. I would cry in the shower, scrubbing my skin raw. I had to make sure that I didn't make too much noise while I was crying, as to not draw attention to myself. I ended up with a parting gift of HSV2 from him bringing another woman into our home. His second wife and title only, my sister wife. He wanted a polyamory relationship. That was in 2007. That was the second time that I left, is because of that. And I loved her. She was, and I don't mean that in the literal sense, but I mean, she was awesome. Kat, wherever you are right now, were just amazing. I liked her better, even though I didn't like the woman on woman relationship. I'm not a lesbian. I didn't like that. But we all have, I'd like to think many of us, you know what, let's just say all of us have some sort of fantasy, whether they are of a man on man, woman on woman, or whatever. But I knew that wasn't what I wanted. Fantasies are one thing, but no, I wasn't into that lifestyle. My bedtime was 8 o'clock. Here I was over the age of 25 years old, and I had to go to bed at 8 o'clock. I would pay for being disobedient if I didn't follow his instructions or the dozen others he had for me. The kids could stay up till 10. They learned not to bother him, while we were in bed. They had good reason, otherwise they would be in trouble. His abuse was not limited only to me. After I left him the first time, I told him never to hit me again. He lied, of course, but while I wasn't around, he would hit the kids, pull their hair, call them names, threaten to kill me, and he would tell them, if mom leaves me, it's your fault. Something a 13-year-old, 10-year-old, and 9-year-old do not understand or need to hear. They carried a lot on their shoulders. And a lot of this I didn't know until after we left him. Even now it's slowly coming out. Today, my now 13-year-old had an anxiety attack. Again, remember, this is in 2009. She is concerned that dad will get unsupervised custody of her and her sister. Her brother went back to dad. He started a fire in my closet. He told me that he would kill me while I slept if I didn't take him back to dad. Even after leaving him 2 times in 2007, the abuse didn't stop. I slept with a knife under my pillow. While he slept, he would kick me, push me, bite me, and choke me. He claimed he didn't remember doing some things like that. He said if I wanted to leave him, that was fine. I would never leave anything. I would never leave again with anything. I would leave with just me. I don't get the kids, and not to be surprised if I heard that the kids had an accident by CO2. Or he would ask me which child that I wanted dead, and he would kill one of them in their sleep. Pick one, he would tell me. I stayed. I cried and I stayed. He spanked me in front of the kids. He eventually thought it was funny to have the kids spank me, and they would protest and cry and say, "Stop hurting mom." I'm sorry, it's been a while. He would swing and thinking it was funny. Afterwards, he would make it up. He would have treats for the kids with food at McDonald's or candy. For me, he would demand sex, telling me he wouldn't do it again, only to have that honeymoon period over in a day or a week, or if we were lucky, a month. My eldest daughter would be bravely bring me ice for any lumps or bumps, wipe my tears, or help me with my bloody lips. We would panic if we heard him coming in the house or room. I'm sorry I'm jumping around. There is so much to tell. I left him 3 times, and on that 3rd time, I stayed gone. That was February 29, 2009. Though I'm still trying to get divorced, I still consider it my Independence Day. Each time we left, he threatened to kill himself. He was admitted to the psych ward 4 times. Each failed. He hired someone to stalk me and eventually kill me in the spring of 2009. For $5,000, this person was to murder me, take pictures of my body, and bury me. I know, I'm not there. It's just... No, nothing ever happened to him. I reported him to the Griffith Police Department, but... Well, here, I'll read it. So, he was supposed to take pictures of my body and bury me, and to bring William the pictures after. Luckily, the people he asked had told family members. They gave statements to the police department. He was not persecuted. Not enough evidence. I'm still shocked and upset by this. The people that he hired to do this had records. They were actually people that had spent time in jail. So they weren't credible. So nothing was ever done. I have been assaulted every time he saw me in the year 2009. I had an order of protection of the last attack. Of course, he violated it more times than he can count. However, he doesn't get more than a slap on the wrist. And these aren't all of them. These are my police reports. These aren't all of them. I know I have more. But these are protective orders and police reports that I had with this man. I'm sorry, I need a minute. I thought I was going to get through this okay. I've done this before and I've been okay. I've even talked and share my story, but I actually haven't read this one in a while. So sorry. I just need a minute. Like I said, I'm not there, but this just brings it back all up again a little bit. Holy cow, why did I type so much? My suffered, excuse me. My children have suffered with me. I regret not leaving him sooner. I don't regret my children, and I feel very responsible for what they went through. I lost my family, my friends, my dignity, and almost my life. William still stalks me, and this is not his name, by the way. William still stalks me and harasses me, and my new guy, Terry. Terry and I have an 11-month-old together, of which William and my son that ended up staying with him have stated in emails and voicemails they would harm or kill him when given the chance. All of these things have fallen on deaf ears. We have supervised visitation that was agreed upon at William's mom's house. During the calendar appointment to set up these arrangements on November 27th, 2007, William didn't like how things were going and he left for about 5 minutes or so. Now, the funny thing is, during that time he left, my partner, Terry, was on the other side of the courthouse, and my son that William has was with him. So my son attacked Terry physically not even 10 minutes later after William had left. The police officers in the courthouse building saw the event because this happened inside the courthouse. My son stated that he was going to kill Terry, but decided to beat him up instead. Terry didn't file charges. The officers told him not to worry, it's out of his hands. My son would be persecuted. My son was detained and handcuffed but not charged. Due to the mix-up in the police report, Terry later found out that in the police report that my son was labeled as the victim and Terry was the assailant. I believe William planned another incident, but that's only my opinion. Way to go, Lake County. During the girl's last visitation on August 14th, my 13-year-old got into an argument with William. She ended up outside with her sister and brother. William was yelling at his mother and father. So I wasn't there. This was just something, I dropped the kids off, and this is what happened while I was gone, while they were visiting. So let's see, picked up. This scared my 13-year-old, so she called the police. I was on my way to pick the girls up anyway, just happened to be on the way. It was almost time. And found out about this from William's mom, who was very upset and yelling. She called me, yelling on the phone for me to pick the girls up. And I said, what's going on? She said, it's William. They're fighting. Come and get the girls. I told her to call the police, and she said she couldn't pick up the girls now, and she hung up on me. I called the police, but I was informed that my daughter was on the other line. I hung up and proceeded to the house. When I got there, the girls were inside. Each one were upset and quiet and crying a bit. My sister-in-law was outside as well, talking to the girls quietly. My baby, me and Terry's baby, had fallen asleep. We'll call him Mr. K. I saw 5 squad cars in front of the house. I yelled for the girls, but my sister-in-law came over to me instead of me going over. I didn't have to leave the baby alone while William was around. The police were detaining him inside. My sister-in-law brought me up to speed. She also stated that the girls were outside. While the girls were outside, William was shouting about me getting custody and saying he would do everything in his power to prevent that, even if that meant slitting the kids' throats. I was horrified. I told her to tell the police. The policeman called her away and told me to take the girls home. But before I left, he would talk to me. He shared with me the details. William claims that our 13-year-old said some choice words, air quotes, and he was just verbally disciplining her, and Grandma agreed with William's statement. I did ask him about the threats on the girls. My sister-in-law and mother-in-law did not tell him about that. He saw how upset I was about it. We talked a little more. He gave me some advice, and we left. The next day, I went to the police department and did receive a copy of the report. I encourage you, if you file a police report after you've left your abuser, get that report. That is a paper trail. I encourage you, please do that. Make sure you do that. Any threats, please do that. Please report it to the police. You might think, no, I don't want to bother them. Please bother them. I don't care. Maybe you don't feel like filing a protective order, but please file a police report. Even if they don't do anything, there's still a paper trail of the harassing text messages or the phone calls or the threats. So if they don't do anything, I didn't want to end up just as a statistic. I wanted there to be a paper trail. If something happened to me, I wanted it to link back to him. And I still feel that way. If something ever happens to me, it's got to point back to him because I know he'll do something. The next day I did receive, I did see that my sister-in-law, mother-in-law stated they did hear William's threats. He was not charged. I did file protective orders for both of the girls. When William found out, he was not happy. He was informed not to call or text or email me. The next day, he proceeded to call me. I believe he made up a fake seizure for our son so he could talk to me. I did call the police again. William just happened to call me 2 times while the officer was there. The officer answered on the second call, and after trying to talk to William calmly, the call was getting heated on the other end. William was yelling at the officer. The officer told William he would be over there to check on our son, but he better answer the door. I found out later that the ambulance was called, but our son was okay. William once was told again not to call, text, or email me. The officer felt that it was a medical emergency and that William just went overboard. Therefore, it doesn't seem that he would file charges against him. Oh, I can go on and on about the incidents of stalking, threats, statements from friends and families about run-ins with William. I am living in fear that my husband will... This is before I was divorced, so he was still technically my husband. I didn't get divorced until 2012. I'm living in fear that he'll harm the kids or kill Terry or our new son or me. After 2.5 years, he still wants me to come back. He still signs his letters, your loving husband, William, and he believes everything. I don't know who else to turn to. I've tried the prosecutor, police, state's attorney with no help. I'm pro se and can't afford an attorney. Our case is well known due to William threatening the attorneys and the GAL on our case, and even a court-appointed counselor. I lost that. I just want to get our story out in case something happens to me. The last time he saw the girls unsupervised, he slapped our 13-year-old for not wearing a bra. He bullied and screamed at him. He told our 13-year-old that she was the reason for us divorcing, that it was her fault. Now, this drove her to wanting to commit suicide. I had to tell her that she wasn't to blame. She wasn't. But back then, it still took time. It took time for that to sink in. The girls are slowly coming out of their shells. They're not as shy and sad as they once were. They have more friends. They're AB honor roll and are working to rebuild their childhood. They're still haunted by bad dreams. Due to legal rights, I cannot pick up and move without notifying where we're moving. You can also protest the move, and I feel stuck. The girls are scared and do not want to see William, but since he's paying child support and he's the biological father, he has rights to see them. Our divorce case has been tied up with pretrial and after pretrial. There's no finalization decree. It would help me so much with some closure. Our next court date is October of this year. I have a blog that's helped me to reach out to other women, and for my own therapy. I suffer PTSD, nightmares, and panic attacks. Blogging's helped me a lot. Hope when there was none. .blogspot.com. That's what it is. Sorry this is so long. Thank you for listening, Melinda. Now, I don't remember who I wrote this to. I'm pretty sure it was to the court. I don't remember. But yeah, I'm sorry. A lot of that, I just, wow. Now, after I left, what else? No, that was the August. Okay, he hired report investigation. Now, another thing after I left, he had plans to plant drugs in my vehicle and file a report that I was selling drugs and I was dealing drugs. He continued to do break the protective orders. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. That's just a nutshell. I mean, to be there with what we lived through day in and day out was just insane. We fought all the time. And I would say, please let me go. I don't love you anymore. I just let me go. And he wouldn't let me go. So for me to, sometimes normal people, which I'm kind of envious, are able to say, you know what, I don't love you anymore. And they, I mean, the other person might be angry and so on, but then they are amicable to some degree. Of course, like I said, there's emotion there. And then they break up. They might have a divorce within a month or two or 3 or 4. But when you had somebody that's like mine, they would drag their feet. They would lose attorney after attorney. The attorney couldn't work with them because they're just being so unreasonable. They would just cause so many issues. I kid you not, like in the court, there was hundreds and hundreds of emails and text messages, green papers, green stack. This is probably not as tall as it was. Green papers that we weren't able to see, but that my ex had actually sent to a counselor, a court-appointed counselor, into the GAL. Because we ended up losing a GAL. He excused himself because my ex was saying that I was screwing around with him. And the counselor, I don't know what happened. I know he scared her a little bit, and I loved her. She was probably one of the only people that I actually was able to start sharing my story with comfortably. But I think he was too much. My ex was too much for her. And so she excused herself. And then we ended up with some jerk after that. And then I just vowed, you know what, I'm not doing counseling again. I'm not. And so I didn't. Maybe I will. If I find somebody that's good, I will. But I mean, that's just like a little look into what things were like. He would see things out of the walls. He would see red writing on the walls. He would see arms and hands coming out of the walls. He would hear things outside, and I would have to go check. So, and his excuse was, yeah, you go check because then I could protect the kids if someone comes to get them. I would hear him talking to himself, usually in the bathroom. First time I heard that was when we were first married. That was in 1995. And I could have sworn we were just living together. And I didn't hear this when any other time. I don't know why it happened, but after we were together and on our by ourselves, because we did live with him and his mom for a little while and his dad after we were married while our house was being renovated. Um, so it was very weird for me to hear him talk to somebody. Now we had a phone in the bathroom, and this was because I know, weird, right? And you probably take your cell phones in there now, but this was because he needed to get in touch with somebody for maybe someone wanted to call him for work, so he wanted to be available if he was in the bathroom. So I would hear him talking, so I would go in the kitchen and I would lift up the receivers, like, who's he talking to? Because it sounds like he's having a conversation that was heated. He would be like criticizing somebody, calling them names and so on, and having this conversation. And I thought, well, who's he talking to? And there was no one there. When I would ask him about who he was talking to, he's like, I wasn't talking to anybody. What are you talking about? You're crazy. And I know what I heard. I know I heard him talking to somebody. And this would go on and on. He would do this, and I'm sure he still does this. He was not diagnosed with bipolar or schizophrenia. He was diagnosed with, without giving too much away, the one big one was the borderline intermittent explosive disorder. That's it. And of course, depression, anxiety, and a few other things, but there were more. Um, and so I learned more about that after leaving him, and learned again, remembering the words of the psychiatrist that reached out to me after one of his admittings, saying, don't go back to him because he is so obsessed with you, and I am afraid of what he will do. if he gets you again. And so that kind of has replayed in my mind over the past few weeks as well. And yeah, it's big. It's big. And I don't know if anybody's out there in this relationship like this. I planned, like, within spur of the moment. Actually, no, I take that back. I knew after November of 2008 that I was leaving for sure. That was after he attacked my son, not my little guy here, Mr. K, but my son, my eldest. Um, oh, sorry, hold on. I'm on Spotify right now, and it's freaking out right now. So, um, anyway, regardless, so I left after that. I had to. I had to leave for our safety. Uh, I knew I had to plan. So he's a construction worker, so I had to wait until we were out, until he was ready to go back to work. So that's why I stayed as long as I did. And do I wish I left sooner? Yes, I do. I do. But things had to go the way they went for a purpose. So when we left, it was actually Ash Wednesday. It was, and that was kind of like a thing for me to say, wow, I'm leaving on Ash Wednesday. And that was really, really cool. That really was. And I'm sorry if you're trying to listen to the podcast right now. I think my Spotify just went crazy and blanked out. Oh, it stopped. So that's what happens sometimes on Spotify. Yeah, it totally, like, it didn't record anything. Did it not record anything on there? I didn't stop it. It says unable to uncover the audio. Well, that's okay. I will redo that after I'm done here. So, yeah, I wish I would have left sooner. And again, the things that I've done since then to heal, it's taken me a while. It has. Everything has taken me a while. I questioned a lot of my decisions. I would go to others before I would make my own decisions. I still struggle with boundaries. There are certain people that I know I really need to take time away, or to take time from, and I haven't. There are still there's still the emotional eating thing that I have going on that I really need to rein it in and take care of that. And then there's my past that still bubbles up from time to time. Now the nightmares, and I don't bedwet anymore. And I think I even posted something on my blog when I did. I don't do that anymore. I'm not as hyper vigilant, but I do have to say that recently I did start feeling jumpy again. And that's when I had this flare up, a lot of stress going on, worried about my daughter. The cancer has went into her lymph nodes. So I've been worried about that. And then some stuff with my ex came up. So I think that and some other family and friend issues have just made me a big hot mess right now with my health. So I know I've got to take care of that. I had a hysterectomy on top of that, and I'm still healing from that, but I'm hoping to hula hoop again. But finding that joy, finding something to make me smile has been something that I know I need. It's been like in my back pocket. And actually I'm going to do a meditation because this was a lot. So I'm sorry, I put you through a lot. And so I want to do a meditation with you after this. But if you have any other questions, but you kind of know why I stayed, it's because of those threats. I would not have stayed if he didn't threaten me like that, if I wasn't worried and scared for my family's life. And I would not have stayed. I would not wish this on anybody. The worry after I left, that I had no job. The car was basically in his name. So if he wanted it back, he could have took it back. How was I going to provide for health insurance for these kids? Well, thankfully we were covered under the laws until we were divorced. But how was I going to provide for these kids? where are we going to stay? So thankfully I had my sister, but there are many times where many women and men don't have anywhere to go. And I encourage you to please look into a shelter. And if you can't find shelter in your town because maybe it's Melinda, and I've heard I don't want to call it an excuse, every reason, let's call it that, every reason. I can't because it's just drug dealers going there. I can't because it's in a bad area. I can't because I don't want people to know I went to a shelter. I can't because um, I don't want to. I've heard every excuse for women not staying, for women staying, excuse me. And the ones that kind of get me are the ones that are staying because they don't want him to have the house, or they don't want him to, have the car or something. But those, I don't want to, just I don't want to bash anybody. They've got their own reasons. And of course, the degree of abuse is different. You have somebody that's gone through things that I went through, it's different than somebody that is being emotionally or mentally abused. And it's not that it's any less severe, by the way. I get that too. I get that from women, men and women. They're like, well, it's just mental abuse. It's just verbal abuse. It's just emotional abuse. That's just as bad. That goes right to your heart. Uh, but there are women like myself, and there are many beautiful women that I've met, very wonderful warriors that, and even some guys that have said, okay, enough's enough. I'm not going to do this anymore. And I'm just so honored to be in their circle, in their company of those beautiful warriors that have decided, no, I'm not going to do this anymore, or no, it ends with me. Now, when you make that decision to leave and, break that circle, does that mean your children won't follow in the steps, those footsteps? No, they can still pick that up. They can still go into a relationship that is abusive themselves. But you learning what a healthy relationship looks like yourself can be wonderful. And I do hear from women, and it's like, God love them, or guys, and they're like, I'm on my third or fourth marriage. I'm going to get it right sometime. Or, I'm done. I'm done. And it's just that you haven't learned the tools to recognize it. Or this person's really good at what, again, covert abuse. This person might not show their true colors until after you're together. And so and there's no judgment there. It's not, sometimes you just are blindsided. Am I somebody that can go into another abusive relationship if me and Mr. Awesome were together for some reason? Yeah, I probably could step in that really again. But learning that self-love has, for myself, and to be comfortable with going out on my own, um, has been freeing. It's also been a good way for me to realize that if something happens and Mr. Awesome and I are no longer together, that I can do this on my own. Anybody can do this on their own. Is it tough? Yeah. It's tough if maybe you have some disabled kids that you're taking care of. It's tough if you have kids, period, and you're alone doing this. Maybe you've never worked, or you've been out of the workforce forever. And I know I've been there. Food stamps, just, it's baby steps. And it is hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. It is hard. It's hard to make that decision. If everybody is saying that, oh, you need to leave him, you need to leave him, you got to do that on your own time. Like for me, I should have left him a long time ago, but it had to be when it had to be. There comes a time when you hit what I call rock bottom, because I was suicidal. I was very suicidal while we were together. My health was failing. My hair was falling out. I wasn't sleeping. And he doesn't let me sleep. If it wasn't sex, it was him harming me at night. Me literally sleeping with one eye open. I was lucky if I got 2 hours of sleep, 2 or 3 hours. I kid you not. I know. How was I functioning on that? I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just I was in survival mode, and I was just able to get through. Now, am I exaggerating? No, I'm not exaggerating. Was it every night? No. There were some nights where I actually got some sleep, maybe 4 or 5 hours.
But that was my life. Yeah, I know that was my choice, right? But I was in that place where my worth, I didn't feel like I was worth anything. I felt like I had what I thought was a heart attack I was having. And as it turns out, I was having an anxiety attack. And that was I don't remember now. I'm trying to remember. But when that happened, that might have been 2008. When we went to the hospital, he was mad because he was missing The Simpsons. And he's like, they better find something. Well, they didn't. The doctor told me privately that they actually asked me if I needed help. And part of me kicks myself. I should have said yes, but I didn't. Regardless, where are we at? Oh, we're over an hour. Regardless, it's been a wild ride. It has been a wild ride. I'm saying a lot of ums. Again, this is unscripted. I don't have any notes. So finding myself was very hard. It has been a struggle. I've done everything I could to be the person that I am right now. I envisioned the life that I have right now. And is it perfect? No, but that's okay. I sleep through the night. And because of menopause, I might get 6 hours, but it's on my terms. I can sleep in. I don't have to worry because I was also chronically dieting and exercising. I would have to diet for hours. I kid you not, because he wanted me a certain way. I had my hair colored. You might see pictures of me with red or dark. Well, I'm a dark brown anyway. Or I'd have wigs that I would have to wear because he wanted a redhead. He wanted somebody that was a brunette. He wanted somebody that was blonde. His One of his favorite models, and there's alleged molestation of one of my daughters that came out way after we left. That's why it didn't come up in court, because it came out a long time afterwards. I did go to the police despite she wanted me to, but at that time we were unable to prosecute him. I did take her as soon as she told me, even though it was many years later. I did take her into the gynecologist because we have the gift of HSV too. I wanted to make sure that he did not gift that to her too, and she was fine. But oh yeah, I would have definitely had him in jail if, despite her protests. She can go ahead and do something as a victim, but I we couldn't. We couldn't, even though I did ask. And a bit too much time had went to have passed since she had the alleged event happen. So the girl knew too much. She knew too much about her dad and different things that he would say. One of his favorite comments that he would make, a couple of favorite comments, is one, if I left him, he goes, if you hear on the news that there's a lot of women being raped, I want you to know that that's your fault. So, wow, what does that say? Another one was, if they're young enough to bleed, they're old enough to breed. Now, also, why another reason why I didn't leave right away too is we have O.J. Simpson. I don't remember what year that was. We had OJ, and then we had Stacy Peterson and Lacey Peterson. They come out different times, but during those moments, each one of those, it was thrown back to me. You see what they got? They deserve that, probably because they were cheating on their man. You want to end up like that? And so I believed him. That's another reason. And actually, I think with I think it was Stacy Peterson, I had been seriously thinking about leaving during that moment. And yeah, I was just like, okay, I got to leave. And that story would come up every so often right before I left. And I would keep thinking about that, like, oh, Jesus, please, I would pray, please, I don't want to end up like her. And, feeling so bad for her. What did she endure? What did she go through? And so on. What did those ladies go through? And these men, they seem to get away with it. Um, I mean, yes, they're jailed, but wow, you know what I mean? And that was in the back of my mind. That really was. Am I going to be buried in the backyard? Where am I going to be buried? If not me, the kids. Um, yeah, it's a very personal reason why so many women stay. And each of us have it. Like I said, maybe you want to keep the house. I don't know. You don't want to have the house. And I'm not belittling that. It's just, each of us have our own reasons for staying. And you'll know when you're ready to leave. You'll know when you hit that rock bottom, when you can't do it anymore. Maybe your health is failing. And I got to tell you, despite me seeming to fall apart right now, and I don't mean crying, but I'm having a lot of health issues. Um, I'm still so much better than I was with him. I really was. A lot of health issues, and this is something that many have experienced, many survivors have noticed that once they leave that situation, remember that heightened dopamine, cortisol, crazy, when they leave that, they do find that they have health issues start to improve, whether it's 3 months, 6 months down the road, a year down the road. One of my friends, she had left her abuser a year after a year of being gone, and she was epileptic. She was able to drive again, and she was constantly having those seizures. So it's very personal, very private why people leave, and why they stay. Don't victim shame. If they're ready to leave, they're ready to leave. If they're not, they're not. And I didn't get into a bottle. I didn't go out bar hopping because that's not me. I'm not a drinker anyway. I might have half a glass and it hurts my stomach. And maybe two or something is a limit, but I don't like how it makes me feel. I don't like not feeling in control, because I had no control throughout my life many times. So having the alcohol or anything else, weed or something, I don't like not feeling in control. And again, it's because I'm taking that power back, and I want to have all my faculties. I don't want to be clouded by having any alcohol or any drugs. I just want to be as clear-minded as I can. And if you have menopause or you're going through Lyme disease or some other chronic illness, you probably have brain fog. I do not need anything added extra. So finding coping skills, coping mechanisms for me that were positive, that's all I've been trying to do as much as I can. So the journaling, digging into my Bible, dancing, singing, now hula hooping, and pretty soon it's going to be sound healing. Those are things for me that have helped. So that's when like I said, I share that on the Soulful Sunday. I share that in the month of February, the self-love challenge. So I do these things is because I did that mirror work. I did those positive affirmations. I did the journaling. I did the gratitude. I did everything I could to be the person that I am right now. And it was a struggle, and it was damn hard to get to where I'm at. I have no regrets. I don't. Again, I can't change anything. I can only keep pushing forward. I can only keep moving forward and keep sharing my story in hopes that you, either before you have, maybe you're just thinking about leaving, knowing where I am now, I am happy. I am happy with the life that I have now. I'm happy with the husband that I have now. Mr. Awesome. He's awesome. I mean, getting into that relationship after having so much dysfunction as a child, and then later as a teen dating violence, and then as a woman, as a wife, that has been a learning journey. So I encourage you to start finding out who you are even before you leave. And you'll hear that, oh, it's too hard to heal while you're in that environment. No, but you could start taking baby steps. You could start learning what the red flags are. And what by red flags is what is not a toxic relationship, whether it's your mom, whether it's your dad, whether it's a coworker, whether it's your partner, intimate partner. You can learn that, okay, me having boundaries, my values, that respect of someone. If I say, you know what, I'm saying no for this evening, I don't feel like going out, or I don't want to have sex, that they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, why? And you tell them, and they'll be like, oh, okay, well, maybe tomorrow night or something like that, maybe next weekend. But if they're like, oh, what, you did, you don't love me, or you're screwing around with somebody else, or, well, why don't you want to go out? And they're questioning you. If they're making you feel small, then maybe you need to rethink that person. Okay. And again, if you're with an intimate person, a partner, that's really hard to do. But I encourage you to please think of your own values, your worth, because you are worth it. You are worthy. You're valued. You are loved. And I know you might not see that in yourself, but you are amazing. And whoever's been telling you that you're not, they're useless. They're useless. And usually whatever that person is thinking or saying to you, honestly, it's what they're thinking back. Remember, I'm rubber, you're glue, that kind of thing. But they are really and truly, it's a reflection of themselves that they're seeing. And you are probably an amazing person, but they are just wearing you down. They are. And I can make this longer, but I'm not. Let's do this. Let's do this because that was a lot. And if you were with me and if that impacted you at all, I am sorry. But I'm glad you stuck around with me. If you have any other questions, because like I said, there's probably more that I could dive into, but I'm not. I'm done. So for now, get quiet. If you have a way to sit, I'm going to try and make this as short as I can. This is usually a longer one, but if you can just get quiet and if you can close your eyes, cool. If not, that's okay. Take some deep breaths. Just kind of settle into your body here. You don't have to count. We're not going to be fancy there. Just in your nose and out your mouth. Let's do a couple. And we're going to take our hands right over left or left over right. I know there's a right way to do this, but right now we're just going to, whatever feels natural to you, put over your heart. And remind yourself that you're not only bringing attention, but you're bringing loving attention to yourself. I want you to feel the warmth in your hands and the gentle pressure that you are on your hands too. Still breathing lightly. Feel your chest rise in and out. One more time. In. Out. Now with your hands still here to your heart, bring attention in your mind. Bring a person in your mind. Maybe somebody that you love that may not be here living with us right now, but someone who makes you smile. Who is this person? Bring that person to mind. This could be a child, your grandmother, even your cat or your dog. Whoever brings you happiness, think of that person or that fur baby right now. Maybe it's a bird outside your window. Let yourself feel that feeling of happiness, that joy of thinking of that person. And just keep breathing in and out while you're thinking of the person and be in good company. Just savor that moment. Now I want you to think of this. Repeat softly and gently. May I be safe. Keep your hands on your heart. May I live in peace. You say it with me. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself just as I am. And I want you to let your body rest in these words. Just think of these. And visualize your whole body, your whole self. Where is there any uneasiness still sitting in you? Any stress? Do you feel it in your neck? Where do you feel like it's setting right now? I want you to be kind to yourself right now. And we're going to say these words again. May I be safe. May I live in peace. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself just as I am. And I'll take a few more breaths. I was going to do it a third time, but no, let's just get ready to end. Just rest. Breathe in and out. Savor all of this compassion and this love that you feel and let it flow into your heart. And thank you for joining me. Gently open your eyes if you had them closed. And thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching and tuning in or watching the replay. Thank you. And if you were listening on the podcast and it abruptly got turned off, that's okay. I'm going to repost it. And actually, I don't think I was doing it live. I think I was just recording it. So, yeah. That's it. That's it. There, like I said, there's more. There's so much more. I do have copies, a PDF copy of my book, but it's a mess. I actually lost one of my main copies, and I have a copy of like a draft, a rough draft. So I have a friend that's offered to go through it again. And so, but if you're interested in the PDF, I have it, and I can email that to you. You are most welcome for that. I actually wrote two. I wrote Call Me Master and Rising from the Ashes, which is again more of my self-love journey. And there's more in there. Different things I tried. I tried drumming, and I did, gosh, what else? Oh, the vision boards, the things that I do with what I'm doing now. But there was a lot more. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and end. If there were any other further questions, maybe on Instagram, I can't see them here, but I will go ahead and answer them in the comments. If you have a question, you are welcome to go ahead and message me privately. I Yeah, I'll be talking with you soon. I will see you back here tomorrow as we dive into more of the self-love journey. I don't remember what the theme is, but there'll be a journal post if you are on if you listen to the podcast on the Hope When There Was None podcast. You can find that on your favorite listening platform. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and a few more. But I encourage you to subscribe, and also to, if you can rate me, and I'd appreciate it, give a review, and share this, share any other posts and so on. That helps me to get more visibility with other people and hopefully create that impact and empowerment that I'm looking to help others be inspired to make that jump. And if anybody out there just needs somebody to hold space for them, I am your girl. I'm happy to do so. My cell number is 219-819-0608. 219-819-0608. It is my private cell number. So, and I do have it on Do Not Disturb between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. for family reasons. And it's my boundaries. That's what I'm putting down. But if you want to text me, please let me know that you're texting me. Hey, I saw you on social media. Or don't just call and listen. I've been getting a lot of those lately. And they're not like, hey, your car extended warranty is going away. Or, hey, do you need to know about your Medicaid benefits or something? No, it's just somebody listening to me breathe. They're breathing. Like, I know you're there. Just talk. Say hi. I won't bite. I promise. At least not hard. I will talk to you soon. Thank you again for tuning in. Stay safe. God bless. Bye. Yes, ending.